Well, hello, welcome back to About the Valley. Are opening up for the new season, the COVID-free season. We're hoping COVID is going behind us. Not looking too good yet, but
Keep our fingers
he's
crossed.
got, yeah. But anyway, our guest tonight is Rod Lee. Everyone knows Rod in town. Everyone
Been in
knows
town
him
a
in
long
Worcester
time.
now.
Been in town a long time, not as long
Yeah.
as you, but
Yeah, boy, it's been a long time for me
31
too.
years. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I could double that.
I'm officially a townie.
Yeah. But Rod's written a number of books, but the last one, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is a novel, Here Comes the Sun. That's a picture of it right there on the screen. And actually, Rod, I enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
It's good. I don't read a lot of, I don't generally read novels.
Right. It's kind of historical fiction.
Right.
It is a
I
novel.
like historical novels.
Yeah.
My favorite novelist is, what's his name, Mitchell.
Oh, right.
He wrote all those real thick historical novels like Texas, and
Right, right,
my favorite is Poland.
right. Yeah, he wrote a ton of books.
And yeah,
And my favorite is McCullough, David McCullough. He's written
oh,
a lot.
a great historian.
Great historian, yeah.
But anyway, does this mirror your early days in newspapers?
It does.
Are you in the? Is that your character in there?
No, and I tell people because there's a couple of parts there that people would wonder about Mick Lawton. No, it's a composite of a number of different people, me and several others that I worked with. I was trying to create a reporter,
Yeah.
a cub reporter, and so I drew together, but all the people in the book are people who I worked with,
Right.
who
But
are,
not exactly the way they were.
no, but they're very memorable to me. We had,
Right.
when you start out, as you probably know, when you first start out in a job, you really remember that job and those people more
Oh,
than
yeah.
you would somewhere else.
Well, that's where you get your feet wet. They're the ones that really train you.
Yeah, and we were kind of the underdog in the town with two newspapers. The other one was much bigger. So we were constantly getting clobbered. And I had been wanting for a while to write this story about the state office building fire, the
Yeah.
environmental catastrophe. Big event. And I was trying to figure out a framework around what to write the book. And I also wanted to write a book about a two-newspaper town
Right.
and the battle for readership, circulation, advertising, all the rest of it. So that was the premise of the book.
And the
And-
politicians, those guys were for real, right?
Oh, Al Libas and Hugh Carey,
Yeah.
yeah, the governor and the mayor, they
Yeah.
were real. They were several of the few characters in the book that I retained their
I
actual
remember when
names.
Hugh Carey was governor.
Yeah. He was a popular governor.
Oh, he was extremely popular.
Had a ton of children. Served and then he wasn't reelected. But and Al Libas was a Republican. Hugh Carey was a Democrat.
Right.
They didn't really see eye to eye, but I kind of contrived it all around this whole thing,
Yeah.
But
Well, I remember Hugh Carey because when I was 18 years old, we used to take field trips to Albany
yep,
because the drinking age in New York was 18.
right. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it was
I
21 in Mass.
I took advantage of it.
Yeah. So, a field trip to Albany was a good time.
Yeah, just over the border,
Yeah. Well, it'd take us about probably an hour and a half.
Yeah, not too far.
No.
Yeah.
And we stay in the Lincoln Hotel.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that one.
No,
It was right on the main street in Albany.
really.
And they actually had a ballroom in there where they used to do radio broadcasts from.
Oh,
It was really old hotel.
yeah.
And I guess Abraham Lincoln once spoke in front of it.
Oh, it may still be around. Probably is. I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't
don't
been
know.
to downtown Albany in a
No,
long time.
No. But the book changed, Harry, because when I was doing some research on Albany and the governor and everything, that's when I came across this fact that the Capitol is supposedly haunted.
Yes.
And there were 3 specific incidents, the most famous of which involved this night watchman who who died in a fire, like in the early 1900s, and supposedly was pitching all kinds of records out the window to try to save him. And he was kind of a beloved figure. So that's when I changed the whole scenario of the last couple chapters to make it that this night watchman, and I cast him as kind of like a Casper the Friendly Ghost type person who
Right.
comes to Mick's aid, intervenes on Mick's behalf, and kind of leads him to the big story that he's been looking for when Hugh Carey says to him which was a famous thing that Hugh Carey said, you know, about the fire and
Right.
the PCBs that contaminated the state office building in Binghamton. And Carey came out with that comment, "I'll go there and I'll drink a glass of PCBs. This is no big deal," you know. And he lived to regret that comment. You know, he had to apologize a couple weeks later.
Yeah, that
So-
was, well, you showed what the bureaucracy is like and how politics work. Built that huge office building in Binghamton
Right,
to try to revive the city.
right. It's part of the downtown revitalization.
And I never agree that building government buildings doesn't revive anything.
Right. And it didn't really.
No.
And it was closed for like 18 years. Literally. From the time of the 1981 fire, well, it was 1993 it reopened, 12 years, 13 years. And as several of the people that monitored the situation said, you know, you can never get every last bit of contamination out of a building when you have a monstrosity fire
Right.
like that, which started in the transformers and spread through the whole facility.
Yeah, and back then was a big controversy over PCPs in the transformers.
Yep,
Which turned out to be a legitimate problem.
right, right,
In fact, the Hudson River contaminated with them, the
yep,
Connecticut River,
yep,
because General Electric and a lot of other companies that were making them just dumped the stuff in there.
right,
And here again, like you say, you had the statement from the governor, I could drink a glass of it. Well, I don't think it'd be a good idea.
no,
But now we're aware of it, but at the time, that's the way politicians worked. Oh, it's not like that bad, they're making this up.
right.
And that
Well,
was the beginning of the environmental movement around that time.
kind of it was, yeah, it was the biggest indoor environmental disaster
Yeah.
at
But
that
the
point.
environmental movement got to start in the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah,
And of course, 72, I think, is when the EPA came in.
yeah. But I remember those days when I first started in that old building with all these people who were kind of like brought in off the street.
Yes.
None of them had, you know, School of Journalism credentials to speak of much. And it was just a mishmash of different people. And I talk about some of those people in the book, like Renee Myray, who I present as Renee Marsh, who's the photographer, who was basically a bag lady. I mean, she was no great thing to look at. A spinster, never married.
Never married, but
Never married.
lived for her job.
Lived for her job, you know, and she was good. She was a
Yep.
good photographer. And Al Lamb, I cast as Jeremiah Lamb, and he's the one that kind of consults with Mick and gives him some advice about, you know, nurture your sources, hang in there. You know, you're up against Russell O. Webster, the star correspondent of the Sentinel, not the Sun.
Right.
But hang in there, you know, you'll get your break, and just keep looking for the good leads. And he was like this crusty old obit writer. All he did all day was work 6 hours a day writing obituaries, you know, and the editor, David Bernstein, was very memorable to me. He had started the newspaper in Middletown.
Well, he was your
down-
boss.
He was my boss, and you know, he was a very respected figure in the community, even though the paper wasn't that respected. He was. He wrote brilliant editorials.
Well, the paper he started in Middletown was,
The Record, yeah.
you know, it was pretty popular, right?
Very popular, because we lived in Newburgh for several years.
Ah,
And that paper just was a thick tabloid, full of advertising, full of editorial content. And that paper, I think it's still around. It did very well.
but then he comes to Binghamton and doesn't do as well.
No, because he didn't invest. He didn't invest in, he was partners with another guy who was like a blind investor. They just
Right,
didn't
so
put
he
the
was a
same.
part owner.
Right. He was part owner and editor and publisher. So it was a very skeleton, small crew,
Right.
you know. And then I work in the bar that we hung out at, the Little Venice restaurant,
Yeah, all the newspaper people in those days had a bar.
had a bar, and that restaurant is still there. It's still my favorite Italian restaurant in
Huh.
Binghamton when I go home.
Still going, right?
Yeah, yeah, the family has been in business a long time, but Gus O'Day was the bartender. He cashed my check every week. And I present him as Gus Boyle, Irish, gay Irish bartender, and very memorable, you know. And he also ran the press club, which
Was he gay too?
he was gay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. So-
yeah. But the press club was a place that we hung out to after work.
Yeah.
And he ran that. He closed down the bar at the restaurant, and then he opened the press club from like midnight till 2 a.m. And all of us newspaper people from the Sun Bulletin, the Sun, went there and we drank beers, played
What about
cards.
the opposition? Did they
No, they weren't allowed there. That was our place.
Oh, okay. So
They all
that
hung
was
out.
definitely private.
Yeah. And then I talk in the book about, of course, Samantha, my girlfriend, who was a go-go dancer at the 20. And, you know, again, that was a place that was.
Any truth to that?
Oh yeah, no, not to that, but the
I
20.
didn't say Marie, but
No,
you wrote about a girlfriend in your other book, Shoot Town. I don't think that went over too well.
no. But the 21 Club actually existed. That was kitty corner from the Sun Bulletin
Yeah.
offices, and we hung out there a lot. We used to go there
okay.
after work.
Yeah,
And
that was common. Go-go dances back then.
that was huge.
Yeah.
And we knew all those girls, you know, and they were very friendly, and they
Yeah.
just come over to our table and have a drink with us and all that. So
And,
I
and
thought,
they were not strippers. They wore small costumes.
right,
But they just stood and they were up on a platform or something, and
Right,
it was to entice the rest of the people to dance.
yeah, there were like 3 or 4 go-go dancing places in the
Yeah.
Binghamton area at that time.
That was
It
a big
huge.
thing. Well, that kind of started with the TV shows like Shindig.
Right. Yeah, so I think the book could have been better, but I always think that.
Yeah.
And I think it needed an introduction to kind of set the book up better, and I just got into it. And I could have fleshed the plot out more, and I could have fleshed the characters out more too. But I had spent most of 2 years writing it, so,
That's a long time.
you know. So, but I got it out there, and I've had some pretty good feedback about it so far.
Is it out? It's out for distribution in Binghamton, right?
Not really yet, but I'm working on that.
I was going to say, are some of these people still alive?
No.
They would know who they are. If they
So-
look.
The 2 columnists for the Sentinel, the Binghamton Press,
Yeah.
that I write about in the book, are both deceased, David Rossi and Tom Cawley, and I changed their names, but they were very,
Right.
they were very prominent columnists for the other paper, and we had nothing to compare to them. And, you know, I talk about them quite extensively in the book, and also the sports editor, John Fox, who I worked for later.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were a sports writer after a while, right?
Yeah. Initially at the Sun Bulletin, and then later for Fox. And he was an institution in Binghamton. He graduated from Syracuse. And I just got a note from my sister-in-law, who still lives back home in Vestal. And there was a column written about him. He's now 96 years old.
Wow.
And he's long retired.
Yeah.
But he was an institution back in Binghamton, a great sports writer, great sports editor. And she said to me in the note, she said, "I can't believe he's still alive at 96." And I wrote her back because I wrote about him in the book under a different name. And I said, "It's all those Hershey bars and cups of coffee he drank. That must be the reason
It kept
for
them
it."
going.
He kept them going. But he was a great guy.
But, you know, a lot of people, if you're not familiar with geography of New York, Binghamton is set by itself.
Right. It is.
You're a good distance away from Albany.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And the big city, the NYC.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're really out there by yourself.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know where Binghamton is. If it wasn't for the state university, they wouldn't even know it existed.
Right.
You know, you don't hear much about it.
No, you don't. But it is all by itself. So if you could actually support 2 newspapers.
Right.
I mean, if you come over here, it would be tough. I mean, Worcester is so close to Boston
Right.
and Springfield.
Right.
It's even hard right now for the TNG to stay alive.
Right.
And it's hard to
But-
keep two papers going in Boston.
Yeah, and so they merged in '85.
Right.
I worked at the Sun Bulletin.
Was it a merger or a buyout?
No, it was they swallowed them up. The press swallowed the Sun up. The Sun
Yeah,
Bulletin.
so it
up.
was really a buyout.
Yeah, it became the Press and Sun Bulletin, owned by Gannett.
Right.
So, and even that paper now is struggling mightily, like all of them.
They're all struggling. I mean, you pick up the TNG, it's so thin.
Yeah.
They don't have any writers anymore.
No, it's very sad.
But here, everything has changed in the newspaper industry, and you're a newspaper guy.
So when I started in the business in the mid-'60s, there were like literally 10 or 12 newspapers in New York City, Long Island.
Yeah,
And I used to read them all, and they were thick. They were full of,
Yeah.
the New York Times, the Post, the Daily News, Newsday.
yeah.
There were just a ton of newspapers, and everybody kind of, their lives are revolved around newspapers. We used to go to the newsstand and buy them, and
Oh, yeah. Well, if you wanted anything, you went down and got a newspaper, because you were limited. TV news was on in the morning or in the afternoon.
right,
The evening news, and that was it.
right,
Now you got all day news channels.
right.
And now with the internet, you got 24/7 access to news.
Yeah, and it's never going to come back.
No.
Newspapers are never going to be what they were in their heyday.
No, your journalists today are going to be internet journalists.
That, and you get a lot of people like me now who are writing blogs or doing
Yeah,
other.
that's what I mean. You're going to be an internet journalist.
Yeah, and unbelievably, they're acquiring some credibility now.
Oh yeah.
And before, newspapers like the Telegram would never touch those kind of people. If you didn't have credentials, you didn't have a journalism degree, they wouldn't put a byline on a story you submitted. Now they're doing it, it's happening all the time.
Well, anybody
Yeah.
become a journalist.
I went to an event in Auburn, a reading of the Declaration of Independence by Bruce Hopper, an attorney. And I thought I was the only journalist there. And I had done a story when I worked at the Telegram. He's an attorney. I had done a story on him for a legal file we did. And so we kind of renewed acquaintances before he talked. And then I caught up with him right afterwards. I took some pictures. Thought I was the only one there. I had kind of an exclusive on this story. It was at Town Hall. Lo and behold, this young guy in shorts comes up next to me, and he's taking pictures of Bruce Hopper. And he says, "Oh, I'm from the Telegram." Yeah. So they're using stringers and freelancers now.
But 20 years ago, you wouldn't see a guy with shorts on from the
No.
Telegram.
No.
But that's the other thing that's changed too. It's become so. I mean, nobody dresses up anymore.
No, I mean, the standards have lowered
Right.
to such a good degree. And it's just sad. I mean, it's pathetic, really, you know.
You don't even have to show credentials anymore to be press.
No, not really. You don't. You don't have to belong to any newspaper association or anything like that
Right.
anymore, you know. And it's accepted. It's
Yeah.
accepted practice now.
I mean,
So,
this book would not take place at this time
no,
in this century.
right, right. So, anyway, the way it evolved was I cast Mick Lawton as this struggling cub reporter who can't seem
Yeah.
to get his city editor, Digger Duncan, this oil guy from Oklahoma, is on his case every minute, and he can't seem to catch a break.
But he can't get a good story. He
Can't get a good story.
Yeah, and his
And-
editor won't let him get a good story.
Right. And then he's reassigned to the business beat. He's taken
Right.
off the general assignment,
Yeah.
police courts and the fire. He's reassigned to the business beat, which he considers a demotion. But then he's assigned to this luncheon at Fowler's, which was the leading department store in the town. It's now Boscoff's. It was Fowler's at the time. A very, very nice department store. So he was assigned to cover this luncheon speech by the editor. And
He gets a scoop.
he gets the scoop in the sense that, first of all, the editor announces, "Oh, we're going to go Sundays. We're going to start
Yeah.
a Sunday paper." And plus, he meets Cyrus Stone, who's the assistant to the mayor, and they hit it off.
Yep.
And then a couple of days later, the fire hits, the catastrophic fire, and he's looking for the follow-up to the state office building fire, and he's drinking with Cyrus Stone at the Little Venice, and Cyrus says,
And that's a big factor with newspapermen. You had to make good connections
yeah,
so you could get the inside word.
yeah, and a lot of that happened drinking.
Yeah.
At bars,
Yeah.
you know.
But that was an important factor.
Oh,
if
huge.
You know, and in politics, it's the guy behind the scenes that knows everything.
Right,
And if you get to know them,
yeah,
and that's true even today with politics.
yeah,
I mean, you might know the person holding the office, but if you know his people that work with him, that's even better.
yeah,
They have all the inside. They have more inside information than the office holder themselves.
yeah. So kind of Mick recognized that he might have a good source
Yeah.
in Cyrus Stone, because
Yeah.
he's got the key to City Hall.
Right.
So then Cyrus turns around and says, well, I'm going to Albany to talk to the governor, see if he'll give us some money for the cleanup.
Yeah. Now here's a chance to meet the governor.
Do you want to ride along? And,
Yeah.
and so it all evolved, as any book does, as you go along, and you think, where am I going with this? What's happening next?
Right.
And it all changed,
Yeah.
because of what I found out when I was going through the different sources that I was looking at about the state office building and what happened. And so
You were still in Binghamton when that happened, right?
that was in 1981, and we came back right after that. And I was there from like 82. We were in Newburgh. I was there from 82 to 85 when I came to Brookline, when I
Oh.
took the job in Brookline. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah, we talk a little bit about yourself. That's an interesting fact. You started out in you went to journalism school.
no, I went to Fredonia State, but I didn't graduate from there.
Oh,
No,
you-
I didn't go to journalism school.
Oh, okay.
I learned the trade from some of the best people in the business.
That's the best way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the people that I worked for initially at the Sun Bulletin, and then when I came back to Binghamton from Newburgh and I worked for Fox, and then I moved out to the news desk, and he was.
No, you're not talking Fox Television. You're talking
No, John Fox,
John Fox. Yeah.
sports editor, which was a huge department. They had like 7, 8 people. But when I moved out to the news desk, because I was tired of covering sports, I thought I was outgrowing it.
Yep.
I was getting older, I was covering kids jumping, high jumping and all that. And I moved out to the news desk. He was furious. He says, you're making the biggest mistake of your life going into news.
Well, sports in a lot of cases was the biggest part of the paper.
Yeah, yeah. And that section was very popular.
I mean, if you look at
That-
the Tribune today, that's what 90% of what they do.
Right, right. So, but that was not the biggest mistake of my career. That was the biggest break of my career, because I started on the copy desk. I started as a copy editor, then as a line editor, then as an assistant news editor.
And you did this without any credentials.
Right. And then I became news editor, and I was in charge of putting out the whole paper, including the Sunday paper, picking the stories that go on the cover and all that.
That's a big job being an
Yeah,
editor.
yeah, yeah. But then I was kind of butting heads with the managing editor. We didn't get along at all.
And this
And
was
the-
in Newburgh.
No, this was in Binghamton.
Oh, in okay.
Binghamton, yeah. And then in 85, I kind of started looking around for something else, and that's when I found this job in Brookline with a group of weeklies.
Right.
And then, I've gone on from there, as
That was a big move now because
No,
you're
it was-
talking you had a family already.
It was a huge move. We had 3 children.
Yeah, and you're going to
Yeah.
relocate
To a whole part of the country we didn't really know.
and miles and miles away from where you were leaving.
Yeah, yeah,
Not like you could take a ride on a weekend.
right. Although I did.
Right.
Because Marie was trying to sell the house back home for 7
Right.
months.
Well, you did commute for a while,
And I commuted for most of the summer.
and you did it on a motorcycle.
Yeah, I motorcycled most weekends until I kind of had a little incident, and then she said, "You're not riding that thing back there."
Hey, if anybody's been out there, it was 81, isn't it?
88,
88.
yeah,
That is a lonesome, long highway.
it is, it is.
You're going through a
Yeah.
lot of farm country.
Yeah, not much happening on that road.
No, but it's a pretty lonesome road.
Yeah,
and to commute, especially at night.
But I'll tell you what, it's a lot quicker trip than it ever used to be. You
Oh,
know.
yeah, once they built before they built it took him forever.
Oh, when we lived in Plattsburgh, which is way upstate,
Oh, I'm pretty familiar with Plattsburgh.
Plattsburgh, yeah, we lived up there.
We're almost in Canada.
Yeah, almost in Canada, 20 minutes from Montreal, an hour from
Yeah.
Montreal. We used to take the old Route 7 from Binghamton all the way up through past, that Camp Drum.
No, the Plattsburgh Air Force Base.
No, but to get to Plattsburgh, you have to go through
Oh, okay,
it took us 7 hours.
through Watertown?
Yeah, Watertown up through there, the Adirondacks.
Wow.
Took us literally 7 to 8 hours to get to,
From,
and then
from Bingham, Endicott.
from Binghamton. And then when they built 88, you just went straight shot to Albany and up the Northway.
Right.
So it was literally 4 hours to Plattsburgh instead of
Yeah, I was
7.
gonna say, because I'm familiar with going up by the Northway.
Oh, that was a long trip. That was a
Oh,
long
my
trip.
God.
You know, but we didn't do that too long. But that's where Amanda, our oldest daughter, was born.
Oh.
Yeah.
Plattsburgh's kind of a unique place because you drive for miles and all of a sudden it's a huge, not a city, but a good-sized town.
Yeah,
Of course, the Air Force Base is what supports that.
yeah, we saw Nixon land there
Oh,
in Air Force One. But yeah, Plattsburgh, we went back there years later to show Amanda where she was born. But that's been a while too, so I've only been back there once. We had some good friends who lived next door to us,
yeah.
and he was also at the newspaper. They live in New Haven now, but I've kind of lost track of them.
And right through Lake Placid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I went to the Olympic trials in Lake Placid, ski jumping, and yeah. Beautiful country up there.
Yeah.
Absolutely
that's where
gorgeous.
the Miracle on Ice took place.
Yep, yep. 1980, right?
Yeah, 1980. Jimmy
Yeah.
Carter was president.
Yep.
It's really something.
Mike Ruzioni and
Yeah.
all those guys.
Hard to believe that all that time has gone by.
I know.
But then you
But-
ended up in Brookline.
Brookline,
Did you bring the family with you eventually?
yeah,
To
yeah,
Brookline?
yeah. No, not to Brookline, to
I was
Worcester.
gonna say, because
Yeah.
Brookline, pretty expensive to
Yeah,
live.
no, we looked around, we ended up buying that house in Worcester. And, I was there for a couple of years. And
Then you commuted into Brookline.
Yeah, I commuted, yeah. That was a nightmare.
I was gonna say, that's a tough commute.
Oh, that's a tough commute. I mean, it still is,
Oh, yeah,
and it's even worse, I guess, from the north or south than
Yeah.
from the west.
oh, yeah.
I can't even imagine.
But back then, at least today you got the train.
Right.
Back then, you didn't even have the train.
Not so much, no. And people carpool more now, I think, too,
Yeah,
than they used to. But no, it was hard. It was all new to us. The kids had a hard time adjusting. And
well, you leave all your friends.
yeah,
How old were they then? They're probably
so Amanda was a sophomore in high school.
oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah, that was tough for her.
Yeah,
And-
because high school friends are a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, and Daniel and Caroline were both in elementary school.
That's a little easier.
Yeah.
It's tough, but it's a
And
little
that's why we
easier.
moved to Northbridge, too.
Oh.
Because we wanted to get out of Worcester.
Yeah,
We thought the schools would be better, and they were down
Yeah.
here. But Amanda dropped out of school before we moved to Northbridge. But we've been very happy down here. This is a good town,
yeah.
you know.
They came here
Yeah.
to manage the Blackstone Valley Tribune, right?
Yep. Yeah, and then I started the Northbridge Times, and,
Yeah,
you know,
and that's where I met you when you
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
working the Tribune.
yeah, a long time ago,
Yeah,
you know.
a lot of water's gone over the dam.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You were
Yeah.
George Floyd.
Yeah, but I was very fortunate because I worked for the Telegram from '98 till 2009 when I retired, and I was specifically hired to write business copy for like advertising pages,
Right,
and it was a novel idea by Bob Recor, who lives in Sutton. He was the advertising director, and Bruce Bennett was the publisher, and I kind of had made my reputation down here. And like Tom Matson and some other people,
yep,
Bill Fortier.
yep,
And so this just worked out famously for me. I had the greatest run for 11 years at the Telegram before they started retrenching and downsizing and all that. eliminating positions, putting out buyouts, making people retire. And I couldn't wait to get out of there at the end, 2009.
Well, you
And-
see a we can see when any company is starting to fade out,
Right, right.
and it's time to get out. I mean, you had a lot of great people work there.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable how
And-
many
and-
are.
And they were very strong. They're very strong local news.
Oh, yeah,
They had
yeah.
offices all over the county.
they did. Yeah, they had one
And-
here in town.
Yeah, they're all gone.
Yeah, all gone. They're
And
all.
now you really got to look hard to find any local news in it.
Yeah. They don't even have many people working out of the main building on Front Street now. It's mostly people working out of their homes,
Yeah.
freelance, calling in, sending in by email or whatever their stories. But that's
That-
how I work too, so
Yeah.
I can't complain,
Right. But you had your own paper. That was a great little paper.
I love that. I mean, I had a good time with that. I mean, you did too.
Oh, I loved it. Made a lot of enemies.
Yeah. But, when I was at the Tribune, Harry, and also when I started the Northbridge Times, I mean, you look at the Tribune today, it's a lot different than what it was when I was there.
Oh, it's
We were
completely
not-
different.
We were not afraid to get involved with controversy and politics and get, I had my reporters and I would send them out and I'd say, my best reporter was Jim Douglas, who's now deceased, but he was
Yep.
great. He was like a bulldog. Well, Mr. Garabedian hated him because he did an expose on his slum property down on Church
Yeah,
Street.
remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, my God.
But
Which is long gone now.
yeah, but Jim was he was a very good reporter. And no, those were good times. At
That's
the
one
Tribune.
thing with, a small community, it's not hard to make people upset.
It's true.
It's-
And that's how I met Ross Rajat.
Yes.
And you,
Yeah,
Abe Hakimi and Bob Meller,
yeah.
all these people that I came to know, Mary
Mm-hmm.
Francis,
You had
Harold
probably
Gould.
one of the greatest front page pictures I ever saw.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking.
Yeah, with two men who are now deceased, Bob Meller and Jim Knott, with the dueling pistols over the bridge in Riverdale.
At the police at the firing range.
Yeah, at the firing range.
Oh my God.
It was a duel over the bridge in Riverdale.
Because they had been at odds,
I know.
about different things.
Well, Jim Knott, when he brought the two orange bolts into the selectmen's meeting, which didn't come off the bridge, but he said they did.
Yeah.
Because Bob Miller had said, if he takes one bolt off that bridge, I'll sue him, or something to
Yeah.
that effect. And he
Yeah.
says, well, I took two off.
Yeah, yeah. But
Those were great stories back then.
yeah. I mean, I had a great relationship with both of them.
Yeah.
Meller loved me. Jim Knott was so good to me.
Oh.
He printed my paper.
Yeah, well, when you saw you couldn't get it printed, he took care of it. He bought a printing press
Yeah,
just to get you to print the paper.
yeah. And I mean, people still miss that paper.
Oh, yeah.
It was a little hometown paper, but
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid to get involved in the thick of what was going on.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, you found something every week.
yeah.
People today say, we don't have the controversy anymore. Well, no, because nobody talks about it.
No, and nobody's covering it really.
Right.
I went to the Taste of Shrewsbury Street last Tuesday night. It's a big
Oh.
event. It's like the 20-something year they've had it. And I spent about an hour there. I took some pictures, reconnected with a couple of the restaurant people I know, like John Piccolo.
Well, yeah, when you worked Worcester for T&G, you got to know a lot of people.
Oh,
in the
I
city.
made a lot of connections. That's what the Rambler's all about, is maintaining
Yeah,
connections
but
with
people
people.
don't realize you're doing another paper right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Mostly, it's a internet paper.
Yeah, pretty much sent out by email.
Yeah.
But yeah, I spent an hour down there taking pictures, talking to people at the Chop House and at Piccolo's, and I was sure there'd be something in the Telegram the next day or the day after that. Never a word, never a picture, nothing.
They don't have any reporters.
It's just, they're just, and I hate to disparage them all the time, but it's just the reality of the situation. They're just not able to cover things like they used to.
Right.
Just not happening.
I mean, the old days in newspapers, the city desk was a rip-roaring place.
Oh my God, it was a
Typewriters
beehive.
going like crazy.
It was a beehive, like on the
Yeah.
old shows, like Lou Grant and those
Yeah.
shows, It was a constant people running copy to the composing
Yeah.
room, and
Right now, you'd probably be lucky to find 4 or 5 people in there.
yeah, it's a much more sedate atmosphere now, I'm sure. But,
And,
You
and
know.
that's probably what it's like too in some of these other, even in the big city papers.
yeah, I'm not sure it's quite as bad situation at the Globe or the Herald. I think they're still managing to do pretty well.
Well,
For
the
the most
Herald
part.
finds a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, the Herald is amazing because a lot of people have predicted its demise for years,
Yeah.
and it keeps running. It keeps going on, and there's a place for a paper like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the New York Post the same way.
Post is the same way.
Yeah, these tabloids are great because they're good expose.
Their exposés, they keep stories short.
Yep.
They have hard-hitting headlines. You can
And-
read
and
them.
they're easy to read.
Easy
on
to
the
read.
train.
You can read them on the train. If you commute, you can read them there. And
Yeah. I always like a tabloid layout.
yeah, I do too. I do too.
'Cause like I say, it's easy to read.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
they got
So
great
much-
headlines.
so much easier to handle.
And like the Post comes up with some of the greatest
I
headlines.
know. They do. They do.
They have to have an editor that just does that.
Yeah.
They're good.
I'll tell you though, I was driving through Millbury going to Worcester this morning, in front of the Catholic Church in Millbury, downtown Millbury. Trying to remember what it said. You know how the churches now, they put little messages on the boards out front?
Yes.
So the message on this board was, "Don't give up. Moses was once a basket case himself." I thought that was great.
That is good.
That's pretty catchy.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty.
It is.
I was thinking to myself, now who thought that up?
He must read the Herald or the Post.
Maybe. But that's one thing my wife always says. You write great headlines, because I do
You
enjoy.
did.
I do enjoy that.
You used
Yeah.
to come up with the ones for my column.
Yeah.
And you came up with a lot of great ones.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a talent, but it's something that you kind of acquire too over time. How to.
And
Phrase
the
it,
headline is the most important part because
It's
people go through the paper, they read the headline, and if it's good, they're going to read the rest of it.
the headline and the first paragraph.
Yes.
Those are the crucial components.
Yep.
If you can't get people past that, you've lost them.
Right.
So. But no, I have a good time thinking up different headlines for things like that. Try to be catchy, and
But you've always done something you like. Then you've always been in the
I'm very fortunate,
Journal-
like you are.
yeah,
To be at my age, to still be working, to still be writing.
yeah,
It's all I really can do right now.
yeah. But you
And
like it.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's the key.
Yeah, that's the key to,
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
still working, and
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
like what I do.
yeah.
And
So we're fortunate in
if
that
you would have
regard.
told me back when I was in the 8th grade that I'd be writing advertising copy, I'd say, you already have mine.
Yeah,
But I do pretty good at it.
yeah.
I write my own ads for my customers.
Nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's a good thing to be
Well, I
able
remember
to
when I
do.
came to you when you had your paper, I said,
Yeah.
right, I want to do a column for
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
You were kind of reluctant. Says, how's this guy going to do a column?
right,
And it turned out to be pretty good.
yeah.
It was a good part of the paper.
Oh, yeah, it stirred things up,
Yeah,
and that it got people thinking and talking, and,
yeah.
I mean, Denise Pilata didn't like it, but,
No, neither did Senator Moore.
no. But I'll say this about Dick Moore, he doesn't hold grudges.
No, we're
You know.
very good friends now.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
No, I always
Yeah.
liked him.
Yeah,
But politics was politics, and
Yeah.
I write what I felt.
yeah,
And when we dedicated the bridge to Ross Rajat, and Ross was still alive, I asked for that legislation to give Ross that honor.
right.
Well, because he was a great guy.
Oh, yeah.
But he got up there at the end and he says, I hope someday they name a bridge after Harry. And then Dick Moore grabs the mic and says, I'll guarantee it'll be a memorial bridge.
I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, we got it on tape here.
Oh, that's great.
Sharon was taping it.
That's great.
And then he says, Be careful what you say, Ross, because he might write about you in his column. Because I know he read that one every week.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had a pretty good circulation,
Yeah,
with that.
yeah,
with the
and
North
people looked
District.
forward to it
Yeah.
because they
It was-
wanted to see what was going to be in there.
It was a very unusual paper in that way. And Jim was so good to print that for me. Russ Brayman was the guy that ran the printing press, but
Yeah,
yeah, Jim was good to me.
I do remember Marie wasn't happy with the fact that the fax machine would go off around 10 or 11 o'clock on Sunday night because, well, I worked a full-time job and I'm
Right.
trying to squeeze it in between. But there's where technology came in.
Yeah,
I could write it on the laptop
yeah,
and fax it in.
yeah. And I was always pressing you to get your column in on time.
Yeah, because I was always the guy running late, and you have to put the paper together.
And of course, Ross was famous for all the letters he wrote to the editor and everything.
Oh my God!
And
yeah.
I had such battles with him because I couldn't read his writing, and a lot of his letters I didn't even run because I just couldn't make any sense of them.
The older he got, the worse he was.
Yeah.
I think he had pretty much had arthritis in his hands.
Yeah, it could be. So eventually I just said to him, Ross, you've got to just slow down, print it more.
Yep.
And then he was taking this painstaking time to write the letters after that. Great guy,
Oh,
just wonderful person.
Ross is 1 in a million. You won't see another Ross for years to come.
Right.
And never forget. I mean, that's why I wanted that bridge named after him while
Yeah.
he was alive, so
Yeah.
he would know about it.
Yeah, yeah, such a giant here in town,
Yeah.
so highly regarded.
And he was like that from day one.
Yeah,
As long as I can remember, he was involved. He didn't become a selectman until later on in life.
right,
And that took some coaching for him to even run. And then when he got in there, he liked it.
yep,
But he didn't mind working behind the scenes
right.
and always used his right to petition the legislature.
Oh, yeah, yeah, he was very active on so many different fronts.
Yeah,
Trying to propose different things. Well, he tried to get the swimming pool in Rockdale
Yeah.
for years. He tried that.
well, he did come part way because
Yeah.
he got the electric pond opened up
Right.
as a swimming area. And I was a kid, and I thank him for that because
Yeah.
I lived there all summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was right down the street from my house, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And I mean, he did some great stuff. Yeah, I've always remembered the Legion, always thought about the veterans,
Yeah.
and always went to the primaries up in New Hampshire. He met
Right.
more presidential candidates than
Yeah.
anybody I know.
Yeah, and he got a lot of their autographs and everything too.
Well, he was a regular correspondence with Bob Dole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was they both World War II vets?
Right.
Both served in Italy.
Right. Yep. And the town has a 250th anniversary next year, right?
Yes, we do, and
Yeah.
we've been pushing hard for that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm hoping to do something good
In
with
fact,
that.
that's what, Senator Moore came to me about a year, maybe 2 years ago, and he says, there's a fund in Boston for you to celebrate. You should get on the selectmen to look into that. And I did. Well, we found out it's not a hell of a lot of money. I think it's like $150 or something.
Really?
So it's not a lot.
No.
But at least they're pushing it forward now.
Right.
And I don't know what they're going to do because it's a tough thing to plan.
Yeah.
And if you put-
Especially with everything so,
Yeah, and you don't have the parade units like you had
right, that's
years
true.
ago.
That's true.
We don't have a drum corps anymore.
I think Ross must have been, he was the Grand Marshal, it must have been the 225th?
No, the 225th, yeah.
225th, I think it was, because
Yeah.
I was on top of the Baker Building.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, Darrell Baker invited me to go
The
up there.
200th was the big one.
Right, yeah, but I remember the 225th.
Yeah, that was nice.
Right.
Marty Green was essential in putting that together.
Right,
He was on the Board of Selectmen at the time.
yeah,
But the 200th was huge. I was in 72.
right,
And we actually had a parade that went from Whitensville, over by the bank, all the way up Church Street, down the Plymouth Corner, down Providence Road, and ended up in Rockdale, right out here in the field.
oh, okay,
That's how, and it was all day.
yeah,
The number of units was immense.
I'm sure,
But of course, that was the 200. Well, now we're going to the 250th, so I don't expect it to be as big.
right,
300th, I don't think we'll be around.
right, right, right.
If I am, that'll really be something. But, yeah, you're more or less, this is your hometown now.
Oh, absolutely.
You've been here longer than you were
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere. 31 years here. Yeah, the longest we've ever lived anywhere, by far.
I'll tell you though, I really enjoyed your book, Shoe Town.
Thank you.
And partly
Yes.
because I'm familiar with the area, because, my son lived out there
Right.
for a while, so I'm familiar with it. But
Yeah.
it's a book, if you grew up in the sixties, it's a book to read, because you can relate to it, every part of it.
Yeah. That book did very well. It was published as a hardcover,
Yeah,
and I have a scrapbook that's just this thick that my daughter made for me of all the correspondence I got
Oh,
from
wow.
people. I made probably 4 appearances back home, Binghamton Library, Endicott Library, the Visitor Center in Endicott.
it must have sold well out there,
It sold coast to coast, literally,
really.
coast to coast. If I went back through and looked at all the orders I got for that book, just about every state.
No kidding.
Yeah, all relatives of people who work for Endicott Johnson or
Yeah,
IBM or, grandchildren, children. The mayor at the time, Joe, trying to remember his name, the mayor of Endicott, he ordered a book. I mean, it did great.
If you grew up in a factory town like we did here,
Yeah,
you can relate to that book, because it's so similar.
very similar, very similar. Because I went to that tour that Ken Warchel gave recently,
Yes.
a little historical tour of Whitensville. And I was amazed, although I already knew it, but I was still stunned at the similarities between the Whitens and the Johnsons
Yeah,
and how they operated and took care of people.
yeah.
And it's just, the parallels are incredible.
And of course, you worked for a Whiten,
That's right. That's right.
who's still around,
Oh, yeah, still around. Harry.
Harry Whiten, yeah.
Yeah.
Tried to get him to come on this show, but he's not interested.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, we lives in Upton.
Yeah, I don't know. He's active with like the Heritage Corridor and stuff, I think, too. But
Yeah, I emailed him, I was given his email,
Yeah.
but he never responded.
yeah, he's kind of funny though, a little bit.
But he's the other Whiten family
Right.
out of, in fact, we was at their selectmen's meeting. I don't know if he was one of them, but there were several Whitens there.
Yep.
But they were the Paul Whiten end of the family, which is Rockdale.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But now, another book you wrote was related to your job you had, your part-time job. I'm trying to remember the title of it.
Nance's Nook.
Nance's Nook, yeah, which, I read that book in one sitting. I read it in one night because it was so funny,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to keep reading it. If you can get a copy, I gave my copy to Kelly down at the senior center because she
Right.
wanted to read
You,
it,
you mentioned that, yeah.
and she wanted to put it in the library there.
Well, it was the kind of job, as you know, I mean, the people that came into that
Right.
store, and, it was
I
like,
still see some of those guys.
oh my God. I just kept, scribbling down notes of the different anecdotes, stories and everything, But, yeah, I'm reading a book right now called Confederacy of Dunces by this guy, John Kennedy O'Toole. He died, he committed suicide years ago, but he wrote this hilarious book about this Ignatius J. Riley from New Orleans, this total buffoon, and his mother, who's an equally total buffoon. And then he captures the language of New Orleans very well. It's just a hilarious book. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's good to write funny stuff once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you've written, what, half a dozen books now?
Yeah. One of my granddaughters for Christmas last year gave me this beautiful frame with the picture of all the covers of my
Oh.
books, and she left one blank for my next one.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, where did this start with? God is my co-pilot?
the book
Ross
about Ross.
Rajat.
Yeah, and Shoetown was the next one.
Yeah, and
So-
what came after that?
So I've done Nance's Nook.
Yeah.
I did Whole Lot of Shakin', which I think you came to my my event
Yes,
at
yes.
Maxwell's.
Yeah, well, I'm in that
Yeah.
book.
You're in that book, and that was a great night. We had the band
Oh,
Kathy's
yeah.
Clown.
How did that do?
Pretty good, pretty good.
It's a
Yeah.
great book. Here again, if you're born in the, if
It's
you
my
grew up in
take
the-
on different
yeah,
subject
if you
matter.
came of age in the '60s, it's a fun book to read.
Yeah,
If you're a rock and roll fan, it's a fun book to read.
yeah. I got a text message from some woman, somebody in Uxbridge today, who had just discovered her copy or his copy of Whole Lotta Shakin', and said, "I just found this book. I forgot about it. Glad to see you're still writing for different publications and doing well, you know."
Yeah, yeah, that was good. Now, what came after that one?
Then I wrote the book about. I wrote the golf book.
Yeah, yeah.
I wrote a little book
The
about
Match.
golf, the match, and then I wrote the book about our move from Binghamton to here and what a traumatic thing that was.
Oh, I don't think I
Um,
saw that one.
I'll have to see if I can find you a copy. That was also based on like a mythical reporter, and then I'm working on a new book right now though.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can't stop.
No, I'm really excited about this one. I'm calling it Gil Christopher, which is the name of the guy. That's it, just Gil
Yeah.
Christopher. And it's about this autobiographical, of course, about this 75-year-old guy who is frustrated with the challenges, the perils of aging, and just going bonkers with trying to do things he can't do, he could have done 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
Yeah,
And it starts out with him, his yard is inundated with magnolia cones from the magnolia tree. And he keeps sweeping them up and they keep falling. And so that's how the book starts out. And I'm into the 5th chapter right now.
oh,
So I'm really happy with what I've got. I think it's going to be my best work, I hope. So,
yeah.
Gil Christopher.
I'm amazed how many authors we have in this town.
You know, I'm amazed too because I keep finding out about them.
Yeah,
And just in the whole area.
yeah,
A lot of people are writing books.
yes.
Although my friend at the bookstore in Webster, Deb Horan, I was talking to her about, we were at a after hours event, and I go over there a lot. She carries the Rambler, and she gives me a lot of encouragement. But anyway, I was telling her about coming out with another book, and she says, "Well, most everybody can write a book, but not everybody should." And that kind of stuck with me. And it wasn't like a forewarning to me not to do it. It's just, it's the utter truth, There's a lot of bad books out there,
Oh, yeah,
And I don't think I'm in a class, that would be considered elite or anything like that. But I do it for my own amusement, my own satisfaction.
yep.
And I hope I'm putting out occasionally one that's a good read.
No, I've enjoyed them.
You got to have a good story to begin with,
Right,
and you got to be able to tell it well. That's what
Yep.
it's all about. That's what
Right.
it comes down to. I've only read a couple of Stephen King's books, but the guy is just phenomenal. He's just cranking them out right at, and they're all bestsellers.
yeah.
But not everyone can do that, But
Well, I want to say, if anybody wants a copy of your book, how would they?
so I have a website now,
Okay,
rodlee.com.
well,
it's
that's
actu-
simple.
Yeah, it's actually rod-lee.com. There's a dash. My friend that created my website had to put a dash in there to get the .com thing.
Yeah,
So it's rod-lee.com. You can go on there and order the book. You can subscribe to the Rambler. All the information about, my biographical stuff is on there. There's a lot of neighborhood photos that I've taken over the years.
you think about getting it onto Amazon?
I should do that.
We got a guy in town, I'm gonna have him on.
I know.
His is on Amazon. I ordered it today. I talked to him on the phone today, and I ordered it on Amazon
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah, Amazon is amazing. It's a great vehicle.
Yeah,
Yeah, I should do that.
and they started out as a book place.
Yep. But
And-
my friend who I worked with at the Telegram, who published this book for me, he printed it for me, Vera, he's out in Burlington. But he's doing some marketing and some social media for me.
I'll guarantee you, if you put Town on Amazon, you'd get a lot of,
I still have some copies.
I bet you get a lot of response on it.
Yeah.
Simply because, like I said, people can relate to it, and especially people who grew up in Endicott, Johnson, in that area,
Right,
who have now moved away,
right,
they'd love it.
right. Yeah,
And it was a great book. I mean, you really related to, I really related to it because it was the same as when I was growing up.
yeah, some people didn't relate to it only because it had a lot of football in it, because the school was a big football powerhouse. And I kind of framed the book around the football.
But we
team.
had that here,
Oh, absolutely.
not for Uxbridge. God, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I would really, yeah, I would put that out on Amazon if I were you.
I should look into that.
I don't think you charge for it. I think you have to, you pay them a fee when you sell it.
Yeah, it's like PayPal. They get a certain percentage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this guy sold from town here.
I can't wait to hear about that. See this book. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sounds good.
About a motorcycle, how he took a motorcycle trip all over America
Yep.
with a couple other guys.
Yep. That's great.
And here again, we can relate to that with the Route 66.
Oh yeah.
In fact, one of the guys that died not too long ago, it was on there,
Yep.
riding around in the Corvette,
Yep.
what we would have loved to have done. Huh?
I was on Route 66 when I went to California back in the 60s. We
Yeah,
were,
you did a trip like that to
yeah.
a certain
Yeah.
extent.
Yep. Yep. Went through Amarillo and Phoenix and
Yeah,
part of Route 66, and yeah, we went. A friend of mine, we went to California. We were only out there briefly, but
everybody wanted to go to California back
yeah,
then.
I'm glad I went.
Yeah,
You know,
it's a
you-
great experience. And,
it's a great, a whole different way of life out there.
oh yeah,
You know, crazy.
and like the James we talked about earlier, the James Couric book. I mean, that's what he did. He left
Jack
Lowell
Kerouac.
and
Yeah, Jack Kerouac.
Kerouac.
Yeah, Kerouac. Yeah, on the
I
road.
keep getting his name wrong.
Yeah, that was a big book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it influenced an entire generation.
It did. It kind of defined the whole beatnik movement.
Yeah, which turned into the hippie movement,
Yep. Yep.
which turned into the peace movement, which
Yeah, I mean, he was very ingrained with that whole village, the
and now
village crowd, and
we're all in our 70s and 80s.
yeah,
Imagine that.
yeah,
And you know what you got left from there? A lot of kids that are in their 50s now with strange names.
true.
Isn't it?
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe some of the names you hear anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
And they're in their 50s now because they got the hippie names.
Yeah.
Like Moonbeam and,
Right. Right.
yeah. Well, Phoenix River, it was a good example.
Yeah.
I mean, you think back on when these things were happening. I thought back then, I said, I wonder what it's going to be like in about 50 years when these kids are older. And yeah, now we are.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, hey, it was great having you here, Rod.
Thank you,
As my
Harry. It's
opening.
always a pleasure.
And
Thanks
I
very
recommend the book highly. You'd enjoy it. It's not a big book, so it's a fairly quick read.
Right.
And it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it gives you kind of an insight of what the newspaper business was.
It was big.
Yeah, it's not that way anymore.
No.
And it's unbelievable. Everybody gets their news from Facebook. And how accurate is it?
Yeah, I run into so many people who don't subscribe to a newspaper anymore. They're just picking their information up,
Well, they pick it up off the internet,
internet or
on
wherever.
news channels.
They will go to a newspaper website if they have to kind of read the whole story or
Right.
follow up and,
Yeah.
maybe with a death notice or something like that. But
Yeah, well, we gotta go. Hey,
thank you.
tune in next week. My guest is gonna be Jeannie Hebert, and we're gonna be talking about her big event that's coming up called Pet Rock, which will be on the 12th of September. See you next week.